was thinking about this when I was watching this movie last night. Even even as an adult, even as an aspiring comedian, I've been in so many crappy dive bar shows, and I've had the exact thought, because I was thinking about it last night when I was watching the movie, where I was like, maybe this is my airport crappy pizza place moment. Maybe someone will see me here.
All right, well, audience, welcome back to Core Memory, a podcast about movies. I'm your host, Cortney Warner, and I'm so excited because this week I have on the hilarious comedian, author, producer, and overall movie historian for one specific franchise. I'm podcaster. Please welcome to the pod, Drew Davis.
Yay! Hey, thank you so much for having me, Courtney.
Yeah.
I am, and I appreciate that my infamy with Fast and Furious has come before me on this one. So,
Oh, of course, it came even before podcaster because I think that you are a true historian and you're like the Indiana Jones of Fast and Furious, I feel like.
I hope to one day teach a college class on just Fast and Furious. One of the greatest honors I have ever had was I was a guest on a podcast about like cars and video games, and I think they also talked a little bit about movies that had to do with cars, and they introduced me titled me and credited me as a Fast and Furious expert, and I was like, well, there we go. That's it.
That's incredible. I love that for you. It's a well-deserved and well-earned title for you. But Drew, I thank you for being here. What's going on? How are you doing?
I am doing so well. You are the first podcast I've done in my new place. I just recently moved. We talked about this before. And so this is the first time I had to go around and find the room with the best light and the best place.
Mm-hmm.
I successfully found it. And so I'm doing very well. And I'm also enjoying just figuring out. I just recently got back into like full-time work life. But comedy and entertainment is still a big part of my life, and I'm just working on the balance and figuring out what to keep on doing, and what stuff to maybe not do as much. And but I'm very grateful for like opportunities like this to be on a podcast and talk movies and just enjoy life.
Hell yeah. No, I'm glad that you're here too. Cause the work-life balance, being an adult, it's hard. Cause if you're not like a super rich, full-time successful comedian in the way that you can buy your family a new house and yourself like 3 new houses, it's hard to try and strike that balance and decide what the right decision for you is moving forward.
Right. It does feel like it's a feast or famine type situation. It's either you have 3 houses or you can barely afford like a dumpster next to
yeah. Dude, exactly. Well, it's like the whole thing where it's like there's no middle class comedians, like not like the style of comedy they do, but like as far as like, can't someone just make a decent make like $80K a year, rent a place, and like be famous enough to do gigs and do late night and whatever, but like you don't have to be in the tabloids and like what what I mean. It seems like there's not
absolutely.
a lot of option for the middle ground, and I don't know if there really ever has been for comedians, if I'm being honest.
I feel like maybe not. Like the middle ground comedians are doing comedy and other stuff. Like they are middle ground because they have a middle ground job, and then they're also using their time that they're not working to create and be comedians and stuff like that, I feel like.
Yeah, true. Like either they have like other like part-time jobs or full-time jobs like what we have, or they're actors, or they're writing on a TV show. They're not just like straight stand-ups,
Yeah. If we all aspire to be like the band in That Thing You Do, where we're discovered and then we can just leave everything, and that's honestly where I think where my dream first started was with That Thing You Do, and
dude,
get into it, and I was like, it's gonna be me. I just need a creepy old man in an RV to find me and give me stew and have me sign a contract, and then it actually work out. That was my realization when I rewatched the movie as an adult. I was like, this could have gone so much worse for those guys. Those young guys who are like, let's just sign the RV guy's contract and let him.
Dude, well,
that would be so sketchy.
It's so sketchy, and I feel like audience, also before we get super into it, I want to bring up some of Drew's two picks tonight. His first movie he remembers seeing is That Thing You Do, and his favorite movie is Furious 7.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just we were already talking about That Thing You Do, so let me read off some quick stats, and then I'll give my opinion about Creepy RV Man.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump into.
No. Oh, no,
I'm
not
just
at all. No,
after watching this movie, I've been wanting to talk to this. I wanted to talk about this with someone. And who else do you bring up a movie from? Early '90s or the late
Right.
'90s in casual conversation.
Oh, dude, no, don't ever be sorry. I'm so excited that we're getting into it. It was a perfect segue. But just audience for some quick stats about That Thing You Do came out in 1996. Famously written and directed by Tom Hanks, also starring Tom Hanks, Tom Everett Scott, Steve Zahn, Liv Tyler, among many, Charlize Theron, among many, many other actors in this movie. Some you've seen go on to do great things like, be in Lord of the Rings and Mad Max, and some you've never heard from again. And that's just how that goes. So Drew, so my first question for you is, can you tell me about the first time you saw this movie?
Yeah, so I had to have been about 10 or 11. And I
Mhm.
know, and it's weird because I know the purpose of this podcast is like, oh, what's the first movie you remember seeing? There probably were other movies that I
Yeah.
remember seeing beforehand, but this was the first one that just really grabbed me by the horns.
Yeah.
And so I saw it when I was 10, and I was absolutely obsessed with the song. I was obsessed with the band.
Yeah.
I was texting you this yesterday. I don't know why, because in hindsight, terrible people choices on mine. I was obsessed with Jimmy. I thought Jimmy was the coolest. It did not dawn on me till years later what a jerk he was. I don't know
I
what I was missing but like I remember being very young and like trying to style my hair like Jimmy because I thought he was so
Aw.
cool. And
Yeah.
like, and I was watching it last night. I was like, this guy is the worst. Like, he's just, and he's, and he's not even that talented. Like
Mm-mm.
I used to think that was part of his character, is that he's talented because Tom Hanks brought the talent, said he was talented, but he rolled his eyes when he said it. And the only other person who thought he was talented was Liv Tyler, Faye, who was
Yeah.
like, but she was just, stupidly in love. She
Yeah.
once the veil of love was taken out, she's like, oh, this guy is a real jerk. But I was in love with him too at 10. I was like, this is the coolest guy. I want to be the lead singer of the band. I want to be Jimmy. And what was really cool about this movie for me was music in general was a big deal when I was growing up because I come from a family where every male isn't just an athlete; they're like the star athlete of their team in high school and growing. And so that was true with like my older brother. That was true for my dad. That was true for any extended relatives. And I was like the first Davis that was terrible at literally every sport he played at. And so my entire elementary school and early middle school life was just me trying out a sport, thinking, well, maybe this is the one where I'll find my and sucking at it terribly. And then in about third grade, I got, my parents let me do piano lessons. I learned I learned that I have a very good ear for music. So music related things really started taking off for me. And then watching That Thing You Do, and later in life watching the movie School of Rock, kind of the same
Oh,
thing. I was
so
like, wow.
good.
And in high school, I was in a band, and
Mhm.
just this. So this movie really captured like the dream I wanted to have, to be to
Yeah.
become super successful, and even if it was a one hit wonder, just get where everyone knows and respects you because something musically you create. And that's a big part of That Thing You Do. And like when I watched it at 10 or 11, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be one of these guys so bad. I want to be and I was thinking about this when I was watching this movie last night. Even even as an adult, even as an aspiring comedian, I have been in so many crappy dive bar shows, and I've had the exact thought, because I was thinking about it last night when I was watching the movie, where I was like, maybe this is my airport crappy pizza place moment. Maybe someone will see me here at Springwater Dive Bar in Nashville and be like, man,
Shout out.
I want you to here, come to my RV. Let's get you signed on something.
I
Like,
think
and so
someone from Springwater would absolutely invite you to their RV, but not for what you did.
no, not for the usual invite. Can we
Yes.
just talk about what did Phil live in his RV?
Yeah,
Was he just
he
traveling
had to.
around looking for bands?
He must have been, and also, but the fact that he made good on his promise to these kids is like insane. Because when I was watching it, kind of what I was alluding to earlier was like my first time watching this movie, and I was like, "Oh, these kids are gonna get really screwed
Hmm.
over. Like this is gonna be really, really upsetting." But then I watched. I'm like, "Oh, everything worked out for them.
Yeah,
That's crazy."
right. It just, yeah. See, it was a very hyper realistic of what you would hope the one hit wonder music life would be like. All the,
Right.
I mean, even to the point where like Tom Hanks, he wasn't like a sketch like. Because this was also what I was thinking when I was watching this from the perspective as an adult. Even though I was like, "Oh, Jimmy's such a jerk," his concerns for like contracts in the music industry,
Mm,
those aren't invalid.
I
But like
agree.
everyone they were working with like was nice and honorable, and even Tom Hanks and Phil and all the industry people they worked with really did have like, I mean, they had their rules, like this is how we're gonna do it, but like I don't know, they didn't have to deal with their sketchy sleazeball.
Yeah, it was a very idealized version of like everything that like what if everything just
Mhm.
worked out? You know what I mean? And
Right.
like and, like, that just is not I mean, yeah, that's just not how that goes, and, like, I totally get why you like Jimmy, though, because, I can see, like, he's the lead singer of the band, he's very, like, artsy and he's like, "No, this
Hmm.
is, like, how it has to be," and I can see that being appealing to, young people where it's like, "Oh, that's an artist, that's how you be an
Yeah.
artist." Even though the movie was very much framed around Guy and it felt like it was very much his story, like, Jimmy was still, like, the cool dude, you know what I mean? He had
Right.
the hair, he had all that, he had the cute girlfriend and, like, yeah, I totally get it. Even though, like, watching I'm like, "Yeah, this guy would be a terrible boyfriend and a terrible friend." You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's interesting. As I got older, I did feel like I learned a lot from watching Guy as a character, because I rewatched this movie a ton of times. Even
Yeah.
once I was not obsessed with it, but I was like, oh, it's just a good movie. And you're right, Guy is. I feel like he's the kind of musician or the kind of artist that we should strive to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved watching him love jazz music, and that scene like where he
Yeah.
just go. I mean, it's weird. It's like weird
Yeah.
how much he's into it, but you can tell
Yeah.
this guy finds fulfillment in music and is passionate about it. And it was just so funny to me how like I don't remember the woman's name, the waitress, but who's actually Tom Hanks's wife,
Yeah.
was like really just throwing herself at him, and he
Yeah.
had no idea. And at some point
Yeah.
she like had to be the adult and like, let me take you home because you're drunk. And it's like,
Right.
again, what a magical story. Nothing bad happened to him. In different
I
situations,
know.
that might have not gone like that.
Right, and that really does feel very like, I didn't realize at first this was Tom Hanks', like, directorial debut and all that stuff, and
Hmm.
when you watch it with that context, you're just like, "This feels very much like something Tom Hanks would make." It feels like not derivative of Forrest Gump, but, like, it feels like
Hmm.
everything Tom Hanks touches does have that, like, feel of, like, "It's all gonna work out." Like, yeah, it's a little scary right now, but it's all gonna work out, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? But,
yeah, I agree.
but yeah, I think that yeah, I just it's funny that you mentioned that you were so drawn to music, and I know that you do play music and you
Hmm.
you have done a lot of play a lot of different instruments and stuff. Do you find that it's the case that comedians want to be musicians and musicians want to be comedians? Because I find that to be more true than just an anecdote that people say.
I I don't know, and maybe it's because I don't know a ton. I mean, I guess I know a decent amount of musicians, but I haven't ever really talked to them about comedy. I feel like for me, they were kind of two different stages in my life.
Mhm.
When I was way more into music, comedy wasn't even a thought, and then by the
Yeah.
time, because if you were asking me the same question about pastors and youth pastors, because I've had a lot of parallel times where I've
Mm.
been a youth pastor and a comedian, and I would tell you
Yeah.
absolutely, there's like something about doing stand-up comedy that all kinds of pastors and youth pastors want to get into, and I've had that conversations with them a lot. But
Yeah.
with I do think what it is, a common draw for musicians and comedians is that being on stage and that performing, that sharing your art with everyone, that recognition of just being recognized and respected because you're doing something really well. And I think that's something we share. But it's funny. I never once was a musician that wanted to do comedy because they just didn't really happen at the same time for me. So, uh, I find that, but what I do find, this isn't really related, but like creatively, my brain can only focus on one. Like I'm either like
Mm,
really feeling like music or I'm really feeling like comedy. Like I'll have a creative outlet one way or another, but it's rarely where
yeah,
I'm doing both at the same time.
yeah,
So normally when I'm being like, so actually I'm in a state right now where like I'm kind of having a hard time coming up with like new material for what I'm working on, but I'm also right now currently enjoying music a lot more. And so I feel like it
yeah.
comes and goes. It's just my brain shifts, and maybe it's a guy thing because they say we're not very good at multitasking or whatever. But
No, I get that. I think that's really like really common too, because like I think that it's hard to have multiple outlets at once too, because
mhm.
it's like especially when like especially for you, you're coming out of being a full time comedian, you know, for several years, and so now you're moving into like I can imagine your brain even subconsciously is like, oh, I need a little bit of a break from this. How about I go to this other thing so I
Yeah,
still have an outlet and I still can get this out of me, but it's not I'm not struggling or trying to survive. I'm not trying to paint
yeah.
you that you were struggling. I'm so sorry. That's
Yeah.
not what I
Oh,
mean.
oh no, it's all good.
But
But there is an absolutely I'm absolutely feeling that in where like I don't feel the need to. It's like I was going to open mics all the time because it felt like I was
yeah.
working out or staying in shape
Yeah.
comedically.
Oh, yeah.
And I've not felt that for the past few weeks. I'm still, intentional about trying to get not
Mhm.
books like the reading, like trying to get booked on shows. I don't
Yeah.
have any, I don't even know if I know how to read anymore. Um, but and so I'm still doing like the, I don't know, the business part of comedy and the actual shows and stuff like that. But I mean, like a few days ago, we went out to dinner, and my
Yeah.
tentative plan was doing open mic. And afterwards, I was just like, I don't want to, and I just
Right.
didn't.
But I think that's, like, well deserved well earned, though,
Yeah,
after all of that, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And it may
but
change. I may get more motivated. Who knows? Maybe my New Year's resolution will be like, I'm gonna go to the open mic gym more, but
yeah.
or
I
maybe
don't
it
think
won't.
yeah, and, like, you can't judge yourself too harshly either way, and
Mhm.
I think it for you, though, knowing you for as long as I have, which has been my entire comedy career, which I'm coming on 9 years in January, so I've known you for almost a decade. I think
Yeah.
it'll pendulum swing back for you, I think, for
I
sure,
think
just,
Courtney,
you know
you're at 9 years. I'm at like 12, 13, 14. I don't actually, I kind of lost count. And I don't want to do the math, but
don't yeah.
I think we're so far into it that there's no turning back at this point. We are
There's
into
not.
it. Some people
Yeah.
will quit and be happy forever. We'll quit and miss it and come back, and that's just
Oh, I know. I'm like yeah, I think it's a difference between most of the members of the Wonders and then Guy, you know what I mean? Because Guy will miss it
absolutely.
in some capacity, you know, which brings me to how did this movie I think you've touched on this some a little bit already, but how did this movie affect you growing up as a kid? Did it, like, inspire your imagination or, like, your
Mhm.
creativity? Like, what did it do to, like how did it impact you?
It motivated me to do music so much more. It motivated me to find a community in a band, and when I was in a band, this gave me like the dream of like what we could be. And so like the band I was always like we're kind of like the Wonders and stuff like that because like it was a bunch of dudes as well. We had
Yeah.
one girl singer as well, but she was one of the guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know when I first started playing drums, that thing you do and that drum beat that he does was the
Oh,
first thing
yeah.
I learned, and even to the point where like I had the that scene where he's got a little bit of extra time in the recording studio and he's just doing the drum part. I did that a billion times. I would recreate that moment in my head when I was learning drums.
Yeah.
Like it was weird watching it because I was like, oh, I've seen this one scene a lot. And so um, but it just all of the it almost like romanticized for me what music culture is or could be.
Mhm.
So then
Yeah.
in my own experience I was like this is kind of like this. It did kind of make build give me a safe space to build my ego a little bit where I'm like even as a comedian, but when I was a man, like, oh, I want to be the center of attention. And I think it started when I saw how cool it looked, with the Wonders and how they got their big Playtone record. I was like, I want that. It was the first place to give me permission to think maybe I want to do full-time entertainment. Maybe I want to
Yeah.
be something like this. And you know, in hindsight, it was the very start of me eventually wanting to be a creative and entertainer and stuff like that. It was like pressing the buttons that I didn't even know I had to push, you know.
That's that's amazing, Drew. That's
Yeah.
beautiful, and, like, what a wonderful thing to, like, mentally equate to a movie that you can always return back to. It's
Hmm.
like audience, I was texting with Drew yesterday when I was doing doing the watches and rewatches of the movies that he picked, and I told you that I cried when they heard their song on the radio because I'm like, God, that's just like that's so validating, and it was just so
Hmm.
pure. Like, oh my God, we're on the radio, and yeah, I
Yeah,
started crying. It's like that's just like that's you have those milestones, in your career and stuff like that
absolutely.
as an artist, and that's just like brought me back to some milestones that I've hit and that I hope to hit, and I'm sure the same for you.
Well, and that was the fun part about watching it last night was, I never had a point like that big where like your comedy single special or whatever becomes like something that the whole world experiences or whatever. But watching them get so excited about their first recording reminded me of when my first special dropped and how
Yeah.
excited I was to share it with my friends and stuff like that. Like, and there's all kinds of like little things like that where you're watching their creative journey, which again is like hyper realistic and romanticized and everything's going up perfectly. But when you're watching it, especially as an older entertainer, you're like, oh, you can come up with little parallels in your own life. I wasn't kidding when I said like, especially starting out in beginning comedy, I prayed that every crappy show I did, there'd be a Phil in his RV out there ready to like, come
Yeah.
on, join. And like even the little things like I have a few for comedy. I have a few like they're loosely called TV credits, but like the show's never really aired. But like
Mhm.
each time these people reached out to me, like, yeah, we'd love to have you do 15 minutes on this thing that's going to go on television. There's a part of me who's like, is this my film the RV moment? Is this it? Like,
Dude,
is this what starts? And I think it was because I think back to like that thing you do, and like, oh my gosh, this could be it.
yeah. Dude, yeah, I totally feel you, and I could see that just being so ingrained and like, "Oh, this could be the moment," because, like, that is also kind of like I know it was a very much idealized version of show business, but also,
Hmm.
like, that does happen. Like, that's not
Hmm.
and, like, audience, me and Drew live here in Nashville, and there's, like you hear the legends of the Bluebird Cafe where people play and then they're heard and then they're country music stars the next day, and, like, that is, like
Hmm.
that's not an unreasonable thing where we know people even in comedy who, like, right place, right time, happen to be opening or doing a showcase, and, like, the
Yeah.
right comedian or manager was there, and now they're, like, blown up. Like, I can think of, like, 5 or 6 people that you and I know personally that's happened to, so it's not a ridiculous thing to think about, especially with like
Yeah.
entertainment is so unpredictable in that way.
And I think for entertainers, you need to give yourself permission to have the question, why not me?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
something I've asked myself throughout the years so many times. It's what motivated me to like go pursue comedy full time for a few years, where I finally got to the point where there were people I knew and had phone numbers in my phone that I was able
Mhm.
to like go on Netflix and watch their specials, and I'd be like,
Yes.
okay, if this is them, then why couldn't it happen to me? Why? And I think for anyone pursuing full time entertainment, for anyone pursuing getting bigger in their career as any kind of entertainer, a lot of like rational people, for lack of a better word, will be like, well, the odds of this are pretty bad. But like, if it's really
Right.
what you want to do and it's really what's fulfilling to you, you need to give yourself permission to have questions like, why couldn't this happen to me? If it's happening to other people, it could happen to me as well. Because without
Right.
that kind of like confidence, you're not going to take the risks you need to make it happen. You'll still be if you don't do it, then you're going to still be at your family laundromat with your dad.
Yes.
Also, this is another thing I noticed that I'd never thought about with this movie. The, that dad was crazy. they
Dude.
gave that they
Dude.
gave that random him a random monologue there where like I this time I really wanted like at the end of him griping about the dryers from the other place, his
Yeah.
I wanted like Guy's sister to look at someone and be like, yeah, he's never been the same since he's gotten back from war. Like I just feel like we got
Right?
so much context for this man that was like not a huge point of the movie, but like we get a scene where we just see Guy's dad just losing it. Like,
Dude, yeah, his dad was crazy, and the fact that he was like I get this was probably like a trope of like the 90s and stuff, like, oh, kids
Mhm.
who are working in their parents' stores or whatever, like their friends come in and bother them. But like he was
Mhm.
so strict, like he couldn't even talk to his buddies that came in, you know what I mean,
Right.
dude? Where it was just
Yeah.
like, where I was like,
It's
your
like there's
dad
no,
wants some
you don't
money.
have
Yeah,
customers, he was
yeah,
so strict that even though I knew where the movie was going, part of me was like
yeah.
nervous for Guy when he walked out to talk up to Phil and his arm. I was like, can
Me
you just
too.
leave with your dad like there? But
Yeah.
what Tom Hanks did, and or whoever wrote the script, or which I mean it was actually Tom Hanks. He wrote it while he
Mhm.
was I think it was something while he was doing like a press tour for Forrest Gump. He was like, he just got bored, but then he talked think about how annoyed he was with stuff that he was doing. But like when he wrote in that kind of last scene with the dad, where during their big when they were playing on TV, and you saw the family watching it, and that's when you could see how proud of his son he was, and
Yeah.
that went from it being a crazy not nice dad to like, okay, he's crazy and he's something else, but he does care for his kid.
Right, like, yeah, and it's very clear that, like, he just wants his son to have, like, a good life no matter what, and then seeing, like, oh, this actually is a
Mhm.
viable thing for him, and it's not just, like, a phase or a hobby or something, but yeah, but yeah, the dad is crazy, and
So random. I never noticed it until this watch. I was like, what is
oh,
this
dude,
guy's
and
deal?
well, dude, even, like, the daughter being like, "Am I gonna finally get paid now?" He's like, "Oh, you're out of your mind." It's like, "You're not even paying your daughter?"
Yeah. Which
You know?
no, when you think about how they like treated and talked to the women all in that movie, you were
Oh
just
my god.
like part of it, you're like, oh, that's sign of times. But I think even when I was watching the '90s and early 2000s, I wasn't picking up. I'm like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah, like, that's actually pretty rude, honestly.
Right. and
Um,
then and
but
then
yeah.
there was another character that I had an unseen impact on me that I didn't think about until this watch through, which was I I don't know, his name was like Leonard or Leroy or something like that. The
Mhm.
hotel manager. He wasn't
Yeah.
even the hotel manager. He was like the
No.
valet parking guy. But it just this his whole thing like, you're at my hotel. Let me take care of you. I'll send
Dude,
stuff to. Working
so
customer
weird.
service as long as I did, like I'm realizing like I got the perfect view of how a good customer service employee should be. And the
Yeah.
thing that really made me laugh last night when I at the end of the movie, Guy and Faye become a thing, and they
Yeah.
walk back in the hotel room,
Yeah.
but they're checked out, and this is an expensive hotel. You
Yeah.
think that that means like they're gonna go back to their hotel room and do their thing, but it's like I really wanted to see where Leroy or whatever his name would turn around like, hey, you guys can't go back in.
Yeah, you're
Or like,
yeah, it's yeah.
or was he such a cool hotel guy that he was like, you know what, go ahead and this room's not being used right now, go for it.
Oh god, yeah, you crazy kids. Go use this other room, right? Oh my god. Yeah, I can see yeah, because I watching that too, I'm just like, "Wait a minute." I was trying to put together, like, so what is his relation to this hotel? You know what I mean?
He was dressed like just the valet guy, but like
Yeah,
he's like, this
yeah.
is my hotel. I'm like, I don't think you're the manager. Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
I think you can make that call, buddy. It was yeah, that kinda tripped me up too, and I was like, it's there's such a charm in some ways in movies from like the 90s and even the early to mid 2000s where like continuity and logistics, who gives a shit, you know
Mhm.
what I mean, because the internet wasn't that big of a deal
Yeah,
back then,
yeah.
and so like something like that definitely was like, yeah, they're just like, yeah, we'll just make him be all the things, you
Yeah,
know.
and just like, and this idea that all these service people, whether it was the bartender, whether it
Yeah,
was the bellhop, whether they're all just nice and
yeah,
friendly and helping you have and I think that's the world that Tom Hanks was wanting to build for this movie. It was a nice,
yeah,
peppy, friendly, not like this. It was just a happy, feel good movie. You know.
yeah. At the end of the day, like I know it was like nominated for an Oscar for best original song,
Mhm.
but like it was well received by critics, but it is just like
Mhm.
a fun movie where it's like there's no the stakes are high, but they're not, because I think because
Mhm.
everything is so soft around the main characters where it's like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, you'll be fine. It's not
Yeah.
like none of them are like super poor or like no one is like hoping for their downfall. As crazy as Guy's dad is, it's
Yeah.
still just like, well,
Yeah, he had and you know what I think something they did really well with the movie was because the little credit scenes where as the credits are going and it tells you which each person's, it shows you
yeah,
kind of that they have their own happy ending. that was a great way, because if they didn't have that scene, it would have ended with you thinking like only Guy and Faye get a happy ending. What happened to everybody
Right.
else? You know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that was again kind of way to, and now as an adult watching this, as someone who just decided to not be a full-time entertainer,
Yeah.
that was therapeutic in its own right, to see, that Steve Zahn's character Lenny, and the
Yeah.
bass player who doesn't really have a name, although in an interview the actor was like, let's just call him Tobias was the name he decided to give
Yeah.
the bass player, right?
Yeah.
But those, and how they had a kind of happy ending. I mean, Lenny didn't get the girl, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah,
he can still have a good life, you
he
know?
like opened a casino, like he's fine. He's
He's
like,
very he's very rich at this point, and
right.
I'm sure he found some woman that would like a rich man that also thinks he's funny and cool, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Or he has enough money where she's just fine with him being a guy with lots of money. So,
Yeah, I mean, hey, everyone has a different way of getting through the world, and I'm not gonna judge it unless it's hurting somebody else, but,
mhm.
doesn't seem like they
Yes.
are. I have my final question for you before we move on to your favorite movie, and I think I know the answer to this, and I think we all do, but just kind of in your own words, do you still love this movie, and why do you still love this movie?
Yes, I do. I love this movie because I think there's a lot of positive messages you can get out of it as a creative. I think it's fun to show the like better than ever, like more. It's unrealistic maybe to an extent, or idealistic, but especially for young people watching it, like I don't know if they're gonna watch, young people are watching '90s movies at this point, but like it
Yeah,
does give you like a fun, feel good, oh, happy ending. Sometimes nice things do happen in this world. I think it's funny. I think each of the characters had their
so
own
funny.
quirks that
Yeah,
just it was just a well done movie. So I still enjoy watching it to have fun. But also, and I've said this a few different times, but like this is the mark for me of knowing that it's a good movie is, I watched it at 10 or 11 and it had a profound impact on me, and I was able to watch it last night at 38 and
yeah,
in a different way still found a lot of satisfaction through nostalgia, but also through like it hit me with a different message. And
yeah,
I think that's the beautiful thing about movies, and why people enjoy podcasts like this one is that the same movie can have a different impact on different people, and
yeah,
different people can get different things out of movies, and that's true for the really good movies. Is
yeah,
you can watch them again and again, and the captivating plot will give you something different, and
yeah.
so that's why I think this movie still holds up.
Oh, well, first off, thank you for saying that, my podcast kind of helps people talk about those sorts of things, because that's the whole, like, one of the whole, like, thesis statements of it is just, like, revisiting these things, and, like, some stuff doesn't really hold up, but, like, by and large, from, like, a
Hmm.
lot of the guests from most actually, from I think every guest I've had on, their first movie does hold up, and it's like they have a fondness for it beyond nostalgia, and I just think, that really it's really cool because there's a lot of,
Hmm.
like, shitty movies out there,
Right.
but, but I think that I think also just being able to revisit something and take something different out of it, I think that's really special. And this movie is like such a time capsule in a way too, of like,
Hmm.
it's like from the 90s, but it's like mimicking like the 60s. I feel like 50s, 60s almost,
Yep.
or maybe 60s, 70s. So, but it still just feels like it feels so like quintessential 90s, and it's such a nice
That's
like
that's
thing to
true.
have, you
Like
know?
when you watch it, it's definitely got some '90s. Like I feel like we were just so happier in the '90s, and we just wanted to put
Yes,
positive messages out there, and like let's just make a nice movie, And nowadays, I think
right.
if someone tried to make a movie like this, people would think it's boring.
I
Where's the
know.
conflict? Where's the problems? Why is everyone, why did they all get a happy ending? Nobody
Right.
died,
Right.
like I think sometime in like the 2000s, or like 2010 ish, we just decided we just liked more grit and not fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
And then
and
the
you know what?
pandemic happened, and then we were like,
Well,
we're terrible.
that right. Well, you know what? And I'll say this because, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I think you'll definitely know what I mean, most everyone are gonna know the movies I'm talking about, but, and a director who has not come up on this podcast yet, but I think a shift happened with, Christopher Nolan's Batman
Hmm.
movies.
Yep.
I just think that people were like, "Oh, we want we don't want the pow pow flash and funny and everything is good. It's like we want that grittiness because it feels more like real and more like
Hmm.
highbrow art. Those are still blockbuster movies that everyone
Yeah.
has watched and enjoyed, but I
I
think I blame him basically.
those movies are so good, and I
Oh, they're
think
so good.
what they captured, and I don't know if they did it so well that that's what started the movement, or if it was kind of already starting and they just came out at the right time. But
Right.
especially with superhero movies, we
Mhm.
just got to the point. Or with superheroes in general, I think we just got to the point where like we were tired of the everything always is sunshine and rainbows, and they
Dude,
saved the
yeah.
day with no consequences because we were living in a world with tough existence, and we were looking for heroes that still
Mhm.
saved the day,
Right.
but you could relate to them because it cost them something. And
Right.
we hit a really dark for a while, like not just the Christopher Nolan Batmans, but the Snyderverse and stuff like that. The
Yeah.
shows like The Boys, shows like
Yes.
Invincible. Like you see a lot of these superhero series or movies where they're very human and realistic and seemingly authentic. Where you're like, oh my gosh, that's I can relate to that because I also have hurt in my life. But I
Right.
think, post pandemic, I think people are wanting more light humor and stuff. I think people are wanting to go to the movie and escape all the crappiness of the life.
Yeah.
That's why we might get more superhero movies like the new Superman, where it is a little bit
I was
more
gonna say,
sunshines and
yeah.
rainbows. And I can, from a comedian's perspective, when we first started doing more clean comedy shows here in Nashville, I was doing it just because it was in my lane. I didn't want to step in anyone. But what we would hear frequently from audience members, they come back and this is like post COVID, and they're just like, it's just so nice to come here and not be offended. It's just so nice to
Yeah.
come here and just enjoy ourselves. Like so many people now are just looking for an escape. And I
Yeah.
think
I agree.
so. Movies like That Thing You Do, I think maybe I said maybe it didn't. Originally, I said maybe it wouldn't do as well if they made it today, but I don't know. Maybe it would because people
Yeah.
just like happy, peppy, snappy movies.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say make 2 points, and I think they're gonna be very valid points, but I think maybe even pre Christopher Nolan Batman at Whole Darkness, I think 9/11
Mhm.
is to blame
Yep.
for so many
Yep.
things, but I think people were like, because I think there's, like, this idealized version of, like, "Oh, yeah, we're in America and things are good and whatever and kind of untouchable." I mean, I was like barely cognizant
Mhm.
in the 90s. I was born in the 90s and don't remember really any of it. But I
Right.
can imagine just from like inferring from like history and like stuff like that, that people had this sense of security where that went away after all of that happened. And I think in turn that the art was reflective of that time.
Mhm.
And then, but yeah, I to your point about post COVID, I think that's why like Ted Lasso was such a big hit and why Schitt's Creek got a resurgence. I think because people just
Mhm.
wanted something. I think those are on their own merit good shows, but I don't think they would have had the impact that they have now if they came out in like 2017. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
I think
people were
so.
like,
People be like, "Oh my god, yes."
they're like, "Oh, it's too like, I want Game of Thrones, I want
Yeah.
this," and those are great. I love Game of Thrones too, but, like, there's a time and a place for those things, but I think, yeah, the new Superman, great point that you bring up. Actually, I'm covering the new Superman with a mutual comedy friend of ours, Will Abels, in a future episode.
Oh,
That
cool. That'll be
that's his
fun.
that's his favorite movie, and I'm like, "That's gonna be really
Really?
fun."
I
Yeah.
can't wait to listen to that episode.
Dude,
Which
I'm
which
stoked.
I don't know if it's have you recorded it yet, or is it coming out soon,
Yeah.
or okay? Well, I can't wait for when it comes out. After you record it.
Yeah.
What? Because in my brain, it's like, what a weird movie to be your favorite movie today.
Yeah,
Like
and I
it
think
was fine. I found it like average, like good, but
yeah.
I haven't rewatched it since it's come out.
Same, and I think probably for some people it definitely hits a certain way, like certain things or
Mhm.
whatever. And I can imagine, like, hearing anybody say like, "Oh, this very modern movie is my favorite." Like, I'm talking to a friend of mine this coming week who his favorite movie is Sinners, the one that just came out this year,
Mhm.
and I think great pick. But it's always interesting to see people reevaluate. Oh, this is my favorite. This is why it impacts me. So I'm very excited to talk to Will about like this being his favorite movie. Superman being his favorite movie because I think it's I definitely get why people would pick it too because it came out at such like it's like it was going up against Fantastic Four. We've talked about this. There was
Mhm.
such a
Yeah.
time of like intersection for superhero movies too, and then that one just James Gunn is amazing, and I think he just made a very specific choice to do what he did with that movie. And I think David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan are
Mhm.
fucking great. I love Christopher Holt. Like I just I can see why that would be
It was a
someone's
great.
favorite.
It was a
It's
great
great.
cast. Yeah. So
Oh,
it
incredible
does,
cast. Yeah.
does make me want to see where they. I hope. Anytime it's a whole like universe, like we're gonna make a new DCU or with like the MCU. Like I just hope that
Mhm.
they keep making movies. Stuff happens and then they just stop. You know,
I know.
which
Um,
speaking of
I was gonna
franchises that
say
stop.
I was about to say, let's the perfect segue into Drew Davis's favorite movie, which if you know him and you follow him, which I'm imagining if you're listening to this episode, you know what he's got going on. His favorite movie is Furious 7, part of the Fast and Furious franchise. And for some stats, it came out in 2015. I can't believe it's been that long either, by the way.
Right.
That's crazy. When I
It's
saw that,
it
I'm like,
feels way too
no.
like it doesn't feel like that long ago, but yeah, it did.
No, I mean, I remember well, we'll get into it, but yeah, that's a super long it's over a decade ago at this point. Directed by James Wan, who I believe directed quite a few of the Fast and Furious movies. He's kind of their
No,
no?
no, Justin Lin was the main director.
That's it. Oh,
James,
I'm just racist. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm just
a
racist.
different Asian man. So no, that it was yeah, it was interesting because James Wan was a very random director for this, and
Yeah.
but that he did great in this movie. And he does
Uh-huh.
mostly horror movies though, like
I was
and
gonna
music
say.
videos. So
I was gonna say, and that both makes a lot of sense with this movie, but also this movie. So, directed by James Wan, starring the incredibly stacked, consistent cast of Vin Diesel, Paul Walker in his last role, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Michelle Rodriguez, Jason Statham. Yeah, I mean, this movie, like, there's so much to say about it too that I have a lot of thoughts on. One, my cat loved it. Margot,
I love the video you sent of him or her watching
yeah.
the movie. I was like, it's
Obsessed,
captivating,
yeah. Yeah,
captivating.
captivating. Margot loves, she loves Star Wars, because of the lasers, and she
Mhm.
now loves I think Furious 7, just, like, there's a lot of movement that she's just
Right,
like
movement and explosions, and that's amazing
yeah,
for her.
cats, there's like dangling a little mouse in front of her,
Oh, that's fun.
so she loves it. So,
I feel like me and your cat would watch a lot of the same movies.
oh, no doubt. I think there's like there's a bond there that I don't think her and I will maybe ever have. I think you 2
I've never saw the
definitely
appeal of being a crazy cat lady, but now I'm like, I could maybe do that. That would be
dude,
good company for movies.
I was gonna say cats, like, they're really chill, man. Like, I mean, she'll sit and watch movies with me, but she's definitely more, like, in tune with some than others, so she'll get up and walk around, but, like,
Mhm.
Furious 7, Star Wars, she was just fully on my lap for and these are not, like, by any means short movies, you know?
Right.
I did watch the extended version of Furious 7, I was like, I wanted to make sure I got everything
Got
in there.
all the effects. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
get
wanna miss anything, you
man,
know?
anytime a new Fast and Furious movie comes out, I will rewatch the entire series in a weekend and
I love that.
catch up, get myself back in the universe to like watch the new one. And I've been doing it since Tokyo Drift. Like it,
Oh, wow.
but
So you've been locked in for a minute.
in my defense, when we were because I used to do it with a group of friends in high school, like we didn't think there would be like this many movies when we
Of
started to do
course.
because we called it like it's a furious well it used to be a furious night and then became like
Mhm.
the furious weekend and
Yeah.
I do have had high hopes of creating a national holiday. I've actually researched it and you only need like I think like $20,000 or yeah
Oh,
20
wow. I think you can pull that off. And you have a full-time job now, Drew. I don't see why you're not
I'm gonna
able to
start
do
saving for
that.
it. I'm gonna have a personal, like a different account, and I'm gonna put money like a
Yes,
four instead of 401k. It's for my Furious weekend. I would put it on the same weekend as Easter weekend because that's when most of the Fast and Furious come out.
that
And
is true.
so it would be really weird for there's a lot of people celebrating the risen Lord, and then there'd be people having Fast and Furious marathons.
But really, it comes down to that they're both about family, both
Yeah.
holidays. Um, but so Drew, why is this your favorite movie? Like, there's some, not even just out of the F and F series, but like, why is this your favorite movie?
So there is the reason we can take it in two different directions. So in I'll put the on the back burners. I'll put why in this series it's my favorite movie, and if we want, we can talk about
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
I love experiences that are tied to movies or music or even comedy shows, like like when something creative happens and it connects you to a part of your life or your experience. And so this is a special movie now for me because Cortney knows this. Some people listening may this, but for a few, I had a Fast and Furious themed movie rewatch podcast. For season 1, we covered Fast and Furious, and 7, when we did this episode, when we talked about it in our podcast, when we talked about Furious 7, it was a very special episode.
Yeah.
It felt like it was the best of our season. It's still, I would consider it one of the top 3 episodes that we did. I just think we had, like, we were like, at this point, me and my co-host and our videographer, we were like a well-oiled machine at this point.
Mhm.
So when we're and I have this visceral memory that I'll never forget, where when we were setting up and Alan was getting all the camera things, we were having like a pre-discussion about the movie and Paul Walker and the death and the song "See You Again."
Yeah.
And me and my old co-host had like one of the most deep conversations ever about that, and it was all before recorded, and it was like really personal. So I even was like, "Oh, can we bring this up for the podcast?" And she straight up was like, "No, no, let's just keep this one here."
Oh, yeah.
And so, and
Wow.
like, but now every time I think about that movie, in addition to I mean, it was a great episode. It was both of our favorites of the series. So we had a lot of fun talking about it. The episode came out well, and it was one of the best, like, most received ones that we did, like on YouTube, especially, and stuff like that. But like, I think about that like special moment I shared with my friends, while we were
Yeah.
setting up for the podcast. Um, and then this movie in the series, I would say, is the best of the series for a lot of reasons. So I
Mhm.
don't know if you know this, Courtney, there's a lot of schools of thoughts as to when Fast and Furious should end. Some people are like, just after the first one, make it a 1 movie series, that's all it needed. Some people will say 5 because that seemed like a natural, organic. They brought
Yeah.
all the cast back. They ended with them,
Mhm.
getting away. That would, so 6 would have even been a good ending, because at the end of 6, they make their way back to their old home in LA. They've been given their freedom back, and like, their family barbecue is happening at the same place that the first one kind of ended. So it was our started.
Yeah.
So it's a real tie it together. But seven was an amazing ending because, one, it
Yeah.
tied 3 back into it. It was, I mean, such a beautiful send off for Paul Walker, and you could
Yeah.
tell, and you could read things later where they actually confirm it. You can tell throughout all of 7 they were going to wrap it up. They were doing a lot of
Yeah.
tie-ins to the first movie, a lot of
Mhm.
quotes and callbacks, a lot of similar recording locations. But then the problem the movie literally did so well it broke records for how
Yeah.
much money it made them. It's probably number 2 for most money Universal Studios has ever made from a movie. Number 1
Mhm.
being Avatar.
Yeah.
But for a while it was number 1. And so then they kept going, and you can see a tone shift when you watch 8 through 10. You can see that
Right.
it's completely. But 7 felt like this is the perfect place to end. They had, and then of course you can't talk about Furious 7 and not mention the amazing montage at the end, and how
Oh
graceful,
god, yeah.
how gracefully they addressed Paul Walker's untimely death.
Mhm.
They were so respectful to him. They were so respectful to his family.
Yeah.
Um, but, and this isn't to take away from that, they absolutely took advantage of the fact of the plot that he had, he passed away. In that,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you saw this movie in theaters. I don't know if you were like a big fan of it at the time. You said you remember seeing it, but I remember seeing it too. And I remember all the hype and excitement was, you thought they were going to kill Paul Walker's character off because he died in real life.
Mhm. Right.
In the movie, they give you so many times where it looks like Brian O'Connor is going to die. They
Oh,
hold
yeah.
that, like, you think it's going to happen, and it never does. And then the way they send him off in that montage scene,
Oh god.
each scene that he had with one of those characters was a significant moment in the series for the character, but it was also a significant moment for the actors working with. So they were very intentional about which scenes they put in to the
Yeah.
montage. And I don't know, I would put it as top montage moments ever in cinematic history. So
Yeah. No, and I know that this movie was nominated for a couple of Golden Globes too, and I didn't look too much into it, but I imagine it's probably for the song, and also,
Mhm.
like, it does feel I do remember them I remember when he died, because
Mhm.
I remember I was oh god, I mean, I was, like, 20 it was 10 years ago, I was 22,
Mhm.
and I was remember working in my day job at Trader Joe's at the time and, like, hearing the news, and, like, I was already a fan of the movies, but, like, a lot of my coworkers were also a fan. It was just, like, shocking because, like, that
Mhm.
isn't, like that almost felt like the domino effect of a lot of people starting to die, like, around that time, I feel
Yeah.
like, just for, like I know, like, Anton Yelnats, who was in the Star Trek movies, also died from a car issue as well, like, he got crushed by a car, like, around that same time, and, it just was very strange, and then but yeah, that was the big selling point for the movie. It's like, Paul Walker's last, appearance, whatever, and then you watch the movie and you're just like, "Oh, like, everything is fine," but, like, that's just, like, he's going his separate ways because he's doing from like, making a choice for him to, like, leave that
Mhm.
lifestyle, because
And
what I
of course,
really like
in Fast and Furious, anytime a character the closest they don't have death in Fast and Furious, and the closest thing
No,
they have is a character will stop going on adventures to go raise their family. The death
exactly.
is when you go home and be with your wife and kids and raise
Yeah,
your children in Fast
maybe
and
a metaphor.
Furious.
Oh, I wonder what they're trying to say, a metaphor maybe?
Seriously, in all 10 movies and the spin-offs in the series,
Yeah,
when the kid when everyone dies, but when they leave,
yeah.
it's just when they go be with their
Yeah. Which is what an interesting universe to live in where maybe that is like how in that specific universe that's how they die where it's like oh like you
family.
only exist in the binary of like you race and you save the world but when you leave that's like you like passing on I don't
Right.
know there's a lot to
I,
think
I
about with
I don't know,
that.
but when Brian's like, "I miss the bullets firing," everyone's like, "That's not normal,
Yeah, no, like that shouldn't be like
man."
maybe like go bungee jumping or something like get
Yeah,
that out of your system.
I miss the
you
fast
know
cars. Normal. I miss people shooting
yeah
at me. Oh.
no. Not yeah, that shouldn't be it, but it was such a good conclusion where they could have ended it at that, and I think
Mhm.
that's, like I think about the TV show Lost too in that way where I think there was a 4-season arc for Lost or whatever, but then it was so popular that they had to keep making more
Mhm.
seasons, and I'm not saying that they and same with The Office, when Steve Carell left, like, "Oh, we could
Mhm.
end the show," but it was at the height of its popularity on NBC, so they wanted to do at least for a few more seasons where I don't think it's bad that they continue to do these things, but it is interesting as an artist to see someone's like vision be like well this is where we could end it and then being offered
Mhm.
like or being pressured by a studio being like you have to keep making more like
Right.
that's such an interesting dilemma to be in as a creative I think.
Jimmy would have such a hard time with that from that thing you do
He
if he
would.
was involved in the process of making more
Yeah,
Fast and Furious movies.
he'd be like oh no I can't do that.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
could not handle
No.
it. So Drew, can you tell me about the first time you saw Furious 7?
Yeah, so I am trying to remember which marathon it was. So 2015, that would have been right when I had just moved to Covington, Tennessee. I'd started my youth ministry there, which I ended up being there for like 6 years, and then I also started. Oh no, I am telling the wrong story. That's number 8. Let me back up. Number. I'm sorry, they do run together at this point. I've had a lot of
Yeah,
marathons,
I
but
get
I
it.
do.
Yeah.
I do remember number 7 as well. I was living. I was still in Nashville. I was living in New York. I saw it. Had some friends over to watch it. But what I remember the most about this movie is I won my first comedy contest after this movie.
Wow.
And I think I might be going to hell because of it. But in that moment, I did a very Jimmy from the Wonders thing to do. I sold out for success, and So, did you ever do Spanky's Bar and Grill? Did you ever do comedy at Spanky's Bar and Grill back when it
Thank
existed?
you. That was before my time. I think
Okay,
Spanky's was long gone by the time I started, unfortunately.
that's okay. Well, I don't know if unfortunately, but that's okay. That's okay. But that's where I got my comedy start. I was too
Yeah,
scared to go to the East Room, so I would go to Spanky's Bar and Grill. It was
yeah,
for older people. It was more chill. But one of the things they
yeah.
did at their comedy show at their open mic was they did a little comedy contest, but they called it the funniest person in Nashville comedy contest at the end of every
Mm.
open mic. And the way it worked was after everyone performed, or at some point during the show, they told the audience would give them a a recommendation. Like they come up with a subject of a joke, and then every comedian that wanted to had the chance at the end of the night to give one last joke.
Yeah.
And then whoever had the best audience picked joke was the funniest comedian in Nashville, and you got a Fresca. And believe me when I told you, when I got my Fresca, I held onto that thing for 3 moves. It did not make this recent
Oh,
move. It was. I was like, I need to throw this, but I was such
yeah.
an area of pride of like I won a Fresca at an open mic. But the theme that they gave the week that I won, because it just happened in the news, was Paul Walker because he had died.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I told a joke that was funny enough that I won that night, and I was like, I'm going to hell for this joke, you know. So,
Oh,
but but I remember that was connected to Furious 7, and I watched the movie with my friends, and we always would watch. And this was I was still living here in Middle Tennessee, so it was friends that had
yeah.
probably been doing it since Tokyo Drift when they had a
Mhm.
sleepover in high school, and watch the movie. And so what we always have done is we'd marathon all of them. Basically, a big old Super Bowl party that lasts almost a weekend because of so many movies.
Right.
Food, snacks, wings, all this.
Yeah.
People can come and go. I'm like staying the whole time watching it. At one point, I was making Facebook events. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then before
Yeah.
we see the latest one, we all would go out to we'd go to like a steak dinner. Like, we'd go, and
Oh,
at whatever age I was during 2015, it's probably like Outback steak dinner,
yeah.
Chili's.
Yeah.
But we'd go there, we'd have a big dinner, hang out, enjoy ourselves. Everyone would usually come back for that and then go watch the newest movie. And that was like, and then we'd always be really tempted to speed home after the movies because you can't go see a Fast and Furious movie and not
Oh,
drive really fast afterwards.
no, of course not. That's amazing, Drew. Well, if there ever is another movie that comes out, please invite me and CJ and everyone who's been on your podcast. That sounds like a lot of fun, honestly, for like a weekend of watching. That's just like a movie marathon, you know?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
that's
That
awesome.
that was the plan for when Furious 11 comes out, Fast and Furious
Yeah,
11. But looks like universes are
I
saying it's
know.
maybe not. So I hope it's a
I
big,
know.
elaborate, you know, conspiracy to make us not think that they're making another movie. But
I mean, I think Vin Diesel is too strong-willed with this stuff. Like, I just think like
yeah,
he's the reason why it's kept going. Like, but yeah, I don't think you should worry too much. But also, like, who knows? You know, I
who
think,
knows?
but Universal would not turn away making more money. Is all I'm assuming. You know what I mean?
Yes, but
Yeah,
at this point, the cast that they have, paying all
yeah.
those actors, you have to make
Oh my
enough money to
god.
be able to pay all those actors.
Oh, I couldn't imagine having to pay Dwayne the Rock Johnson any of his fees at all. You know,
Yep.
But I wanted to go back really quick too, talking about James Wan.
Hmm.
You know mentioned that he did mostly horror and music videos. Before this, I think that it's very clear with this movie too, the way that it's shot, because there's this like element of like suspense that
Hmm.
like I think that the other movies have, but this one just really captures like a lot of just like you are like holding your breath a lot more, even though you know it's going to be okay. And I just think stylistically, it just really does stick out from the other movies too. Like there's just a different air of like there's like I don't know, there's a different. It feels like an auteur making like a blockbuster
Hmm.
movie, and I because Furious 7 definitely sticks out to me as one of my favorites too. I think that and Tokyo Drift are two of my because they're just
Yeah,
different. You know,
they're
they feel
different. Tokyo
yeah.
Drift could be the best standalone. If it was
I
the
agree.
other movies kind of need each other, but
Yeah,
Tokyo Drift, but it was the first and maybe debatably only Fast and Furious movie that has a plot.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
like a beginning, a middle, and end in character development. You
yeah.
could argue Fast 1 and Fast 2, if you put them together, you see Paul Walker's character development both as an actor and a character.
Agreed.
But by itself, Tokyo Drift is the only one that has like the normal movie things like plots and
Yeah,
scripts and stuff. But
yeah,
but I agree with what you were saying about Furious 7. One of the things they did very well, I think, a lot of the earlier Fast and Furious did this well, but James Wan did it particularly well in Furious 7 is like each chase or action sequence is almost like telling its own plot. Like,
yeah,
I think that's the mark of a good car chase, and this is something that most of the Fast and Furiouses do well.
yeah.
Is that like it's not boring to watch? It's not like the
No,
same thing. It's holding your attention with whatever's happening, whatever crisis they're having to deal with. Like it takes you on a literal ride,
yeah.
and there were all those action sequences in Furious 7 did it well. Um,
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that because I was talking to another friend of mine not that long ago about like like sword fighting or like fight sequences where
mhm,
you can get a lot out of a character and like their training or lack of training, they're like the way that are they more reserved or are they more like fiery attack? Like I use the
mhm,
example of the in the reboots of the Star Wars movies, The Force Awakens, watching Ren and Rey fight in the woods, where it's like she is
mhm.
fully like swing. She doesn't know how to wield a lightsaber, where he is much more classically trained and like a lot more like waiting her to attack so he can like respond, and
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
and that just like tells you so much about these characters and like where they're at. And I think the same thing with the chase scenes in Furious 7, where it's like you get the relation to this because like, you're basically watching this
Mhm.
guy stalk a group of people and like
Yeah.
he knows their every move, he knows their weaknesses, and watching how he attacks and how he like employs his
Mhm.
attacks on each person. It's different than the last one. It'll be different than the next one. And I just got so much. I was like, this is really like masterful storytelling in a way that you don't necessarily absorb, but you're like, oh, he is doing things differently with his goons or who or himself than he
Yeah.
would do with Paul Walker versus Vin Diesel or whatever, you know what I mean? And I just think
Well,
that's really just like really
yeah.
cool.
Even the fight scene between Jason Statham and Vin Diesel, like the
Yeah.
way that you could see how their characters are dictates how they fight.
Yes.
Jason Statham's very methodical and tactically trained.
Mhm.
He's using windshield wipers as a weapon, which isn't a thing, but that Las Vegas
Right.
just use logic to. But like,
Yeah.
I remember when I watched that, not this last time, but the time before when I rewatched it, I turned to my friend. I was like, I don't think windshield wipers work this way in real life, but they do in Fast and Furious. And then Vin Diesel, of course, is using like wrenches and like street fighting and like stuff
Yeah.
picked up through being an illegal street racer, and is somehow able to stand toe to toe with an undercover spy. And then of course
Right.
the movie ends the fight ends in a classic Fast and Furious fashion where he just steps on the ground really, really hard, and it falls apart, engulfing
Yep.
Jason Statham. Uh, because he's
Yeah.
Vin Diesel and he's basically a superhero at this point in the series.
Right, right, and an audience, Drew has a joke about many jokes about Fast and Furious where he talks I don't remember which one it was where you talk about how The Rock can, like, move a torpedo, or, like,
Yep.
move a helicopter in the air, like, but, like and that's just, like that's somehow realistic
Yeah,
in this world.
it's and that's why I watch them all before I watch the newest ones, because you have to get sucked back into this world. There gets to
Right.
a point where your brain just tells you when you're watching enough Fast and Furious movies, oh yeah, if someone's following a cop, our car can catch them. Like that's
Yeah,
like
right.
when I've watched these movies at this point, and when I'm at 7, by that point, when they catch someone's a car, I literally have turned to my friend before. I'm like, oh, thank God there's a car there, which
Right.
isn't like, but and in this movie the Rock flexes out of a cast. I think that's pretty. He he uses throws an ambulance at a drone to stop
Yeah.
it, and he has classic lines like "Woman, I am the cavalry," and like
Yeah.
I,
Yes.
that was I did one of the things we talked about when we reviewed this movie in my podcast was I liked The Rock in Fast Five. I thought he was a great
Mhm.
addition to the plot. I
Me
felt like they
too.
had way too much of him in Fast Six. Like he was annoying to me in Fast Six.
Yeah.
But Fast Seven, they fixed that because they had him at
Mhm.
the beginning and at the end, and with just enough
Yes.
cheesy Hobbs dialogue. But we didn't get him for most of the movie. And for me personally, that's plenty. Like it
I
just that
agree.
character. Yeah, I like him when we now he was good in Hobbs and Shaw where like
Yes.
it was, but like when you have all these character roles, you got to kind of I got to figure out. And what they did with later movies is they just kind of throw in so many characters, and
Mhm.
you don't. There's not enough time for the individual characters that you've been growing with. I've been literally living my life since high school. You don't get
A
as much
quarter mile
time.
at a time.
Right, absolutely. They don't get as much time to shine because everyone's got to have a moment. But you know what? Like some of these characters just need a few important moments and then leave it there. So.
I think that's it too, and I feel like, yeah, I agree with you on the assessment of The Rock's usage in these later movies because it's always weird when you add in a new character in a very
Mhm.
established series where it's like you want to watch Vin Diesel, you want to watch Michelle Rodriguez, you want to watch Paul
Mhm.
Walker because you've been with them for so long, and when you throw in this other person, and I get The Rock is like the biggest movie star
Mhm.
right now in the world, so
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we'll use more of him because people seem to like him, with good reason, but it's also like, well, okay, but now I have to really care about this person too when there's already
Right.
other stuff going on. And so I see, yeah, he was perfectly used in this, but then with the absence of Paul Walker, I see how they kind of moved him and some other characters in to like fill that void that really was never, in my opinion, fully replaced, because I
Yeah.
feel like Brian is like I think he's I know that Vin Diesel, these are like his movies, but Brian is like the heart and soul of these
Ryan
movies, you
absolutely
know?
was the heart of it, but you did see a tone shift in the movies by Fast Five, Vin Diesel becomes the
Yeah,
main star, which is ridiculous because
right.
Brian was in more and like he was the main character in
Yeah,
one
because
and
Vin wasn't even
two.
in the
But
second Vin wasn't in the second
no,
one.
no, he turned it down because he was doing
Yeah.
Riddick and he didn't think there was much future for Fast and Furious. Smartest
So
thing he did for his
crazy.
career though was when they wanted him to do a cameo in Tokyo Drift. He said, "Sure, if you
Mhm.
put me as a director credit going forward." Which they did, and that gave him his golden goose for
Yeah, I mean,
however
he's
long.
very
Yeah,
rich. They
yeah,
have like a they have like obviously Universal Studios has the infamous ride in Florida, which is not very good, but then they're building a roller coaster, of which it should have been Fast and Furious should be a roller coaster ride.
yeah.
They're
That's a
building
good
one.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea for yeah.
Yeah, so they're building one in Universal Studios Hollywood, which I think is supposed to open in like 2027 or maybe even this year. Looks awesome, but so I mean, like he's probably getting some back end residuals from all of that too, I'm sure. So he's very very rich, you know.
He's doing fine. He has his own island. He has his own island where he
He
has a
does.
recording studio. Someone came up to me after the show when talked about Fast and Furious and Vin Diesel, and because we're in Music City, people here have music connections,
Right.
and apparently their brother did something for one of he has two tracks you can find on Spotify. If you It's like a
Hmm.
reggae. They're not very good if I'm being honest, but like
Yeah.
you can find Vin Diesel music on Spotify. And in one of these, this person who came up to me, his brother did something, whether it was with the mixing or I don't know what, and she said that Vin Diesel flew him to his private island. This was during COVID times to like
Wow.
mix up and make the song. So that's interesting. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, you can't be good at everything, you know. You can't stomp the ground and end a fight and then also be like a
and be an
prolific
amazing
musician.
musician. Yeah.
Yeah.
So although now we need a crossover. Vin Diesel fills the spot for the Wonders and sings
Yes.
that thing.
I would love that because Jimmy's out, Jimmy's gone, so Vin Diesel
Yeah.
can be the new.
Yep. Bring
That'd be
Wolfman
funny.
back. He was the bass player for a little bit, and then
Yes.
Lenny can take a break from running a casino, and Guy's already in.
Yeah.
So that there
Yeah,
we
Guy's
go.
already ready, and, like and Liv Tyler will be there for moral support, you know. Um, but with
Absolutely.
that but with that being said, that leads perfectly into my next question, which is, what are the correlations you see between these 2 movies, if any?
Well, the most obvious one for me, and it's cheating because it wasn't Furious Seven, but Charlize Theron is the main
Mhm.
character in the Fast and Furious
Yeah,
franchise. By eight, she's the main villain in eight, and then she's the side
yeah.
villain kind of in 9 and 10. And she was this terrible girlfriend in That Thing You Do. And I like to pretend now that this was Cypher before she went all bad and hacker like. Things didn't go
Yeah.
well with Tina and the dentist, and she made a complete identity change and became a villain hell bent on taking the world down digitally. Another thing I learned about was that both movies were tributes to deceased actors or directors. Tom Hanks
Mm.
had a friend who I don't know if he was involved in That Thing You Do, but he did pass away, so they dedicated the movie to him. And of course, Furious Seven was dedicated to Paul Walker. And I don't. This one's a bit of a stretch, but I really tried my best. Both songs have like, or both movies have like iconic songs that are attached
Mhm.
to them. So That Thing You
Yeah.
Do, obviously That Thing You Do, and then Furious Seven, See You Again. And I think
Yes.
those are. And then the last one I can think of, it's so obscure, it's not even that important. But of course, there's all the cars in Fast and Furious Seven, and then there's Phil in his RV.
Yeah. I like
And
it. No, I like it.
yeah, so yeah,
No, I like I thank you for first off giving such a thoughtful answer too, because I feel like I sometimes catch people off guard with this. So I'm thankful that like like you had a lot to come with, so I really appreciate that. For me, I agree with all of those. I definitely think that like both movies really live well in their own universe. They're on
hmm
Earth. They're in the world that we live in, but they're in their own separate universe that does not exist where we live. And
yeah,
I think that, it's partially like the world building, but they're also stylized in such a way that I think is really cool, where it's like, yeah, this is planet Earth. This is like this could be anyone's town or anyone's city,
Hmm.
but it's just like, but it's not. And I think that's really cool the way that they're able to like contain all of that in a way that feels like tangible, but like you are like, this is like a different, like this totally different like timeline than what we're living in. And
Absolutely.
I think just the, like I think that's definitely the big one. And I think this one might be a stretch, but I see some similarities of Paul Walker and Guy, or Brian and Guy, because they're both in this one place of like domesticity, and they're like, I'm
Hmm.
cool with this, whatever, but they're still itchy, and they have that tug of like, man, I really want to be a jazz musician. I really want to play in a band, or I
Right.
really
That's
want
a
to,
good point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or I really want to be shot at, like whatever.
Yeah, they're both living lives that they're unsatisfied with, and looking for
Yeah,
different forms of adrenaline. One's a little bit healthier than the other. I
right.
also,
And that's, yeah.
there's also a dichotomy in that,
Mhm.
of course, all the memes, and I do love this about Fast and Furious, how it's about the family motif of the people that
Mhm.
aren't related to you, but they become your family through shared experience and stuff like that. And that was why growing up it was such a big deal for me, because I didn't have a wonderful family, like real family, a biological family, but like my friends and the people close to me, they became my family. And then we all started robbing DVD players together, just like in Fast and Furious. Um,
Yeah.
but so whereas there's that family connection, Furious 7, you could almost argue that if they had had more connections, the Wonders would have stayed together. If
Yes.
you know, yeah, there was a lot of dissension that happened, and it started happening piece by piece.
Mhm.
Starting with the bass player leaving for the army, and he wasn't.
Right.
What kind of connection do you have with a band where you abruptly leave to go to Disney World with the army? Uh, you know, Lenny found his connection in just the hot woman, and
Yeah.
went out with her in Vegas, and then Guy and Faye never really had a connection. Well, excuse me,
Yeah.
they had a connection. Jimmy and Faye never
Jimmy,
had a
yeah.
connection, and then also Guy was part of it because he was a drummer, but he kind of just joined in, and he wasn't really part of the band until he actually,
Yeah.
because of him, they were able to be super successful.
Right.
Um, can you imagine?
But yeah.
I wonder how annoyed the original drummer was when he had to go back and get Guy's job
Oh,
with his
right.
broken arm.
Well, well, even like with him, like watching the talent show where he's just like, oh, like what? Like, yeah, he just
Yeah,
then someone bumps into him and it hurts his arm and stuff. And I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, like maybe don't be stupid and like jump over stuff.
right, absolutely.
You know, but they would never have been successful without guys speeding the
No,
tempo up, you know what I mean? Because they were playing it very much like a ballad,
it was so yeah, it
like
was
a
so
Beatles
slow and
song.
boring. So yeah,
Yeah. But man, no, I agree with you about the song as well too. Like both movies have an iconic song that I think supersedes both movies in their own way. Cause
hmm,
like I definitely have heard the song "That Thing You Do" a ton of times. I was a fan of Fountains of Wayne, as
hmm,
pop punk kids. Fan
yep,
of them. Stacey's famously for Stacey's mom, but they've written a lot of great songs.
yeah,
So like them, and then like so I knew that song before I knew the movie, and then definitely heard that song "See You Again"
hmm,
everywhere. Like before I saw the movie, that was like a top 40 hit. You know what
you're
I
right,
mean? So I think in some ways both songs have outlived the movies that they come from, which is
absolutely.
which is like kind of a rare thing these days. A lot of times movies, I don't know, I feel like a lot of movies don't have songs done by or either the people in the movie or like a specific song for the movie that like really supersedes it. So that is like a cool connection as well. But yeah, those are awesome
Yeah,
points.
very cool.
Um, so Drew, I have two more questions for you, and they're rapid fire, but answer them at your leisure. Like, because I
Okay.
mean, I don't want anyone to feel freaked out on here. So for both movies, if you had to recast both movies with all Muppets but keep one human being in each movie, who would the who would the human be in both movies? Who would you keep?
Okay, so in That Thing You Do, we would absolutely keep Tom Hanks, but we would make the
Yes,
whole band and everyone else Muppets. And him in
yes,
that locker room scene talking to the Muppets, you watching the Muppets on the play the instruments, I think that would be fun. The Muppets
yes,
on the when they were filming the Hollywood movie and they were all dressed up as sailors, that would be cool.
yes. Oh my God, yes.
I think it would be fun, and this is an obscure, like I'm picking a minor character to keep as the but Ramsey was introduced in Furious 7, I would keep
Mm,
her as
yeah.
a human, and then everyone else has to be Muppets. Vin Diesel Muppet, Paul Walker saving her as a Muppet. Like, I
Yeah.
think that what a tone shift to the movie. The Rock breaking out his gas as a Muppet, like that. That's
Yes. I would want Miss Piggy as The Rock. That's I think that's a
yep, that would be great.
perfect, like, just, like, watch her just, like, break
Yep,
out of her.
I think that would be perfect casting. Uh,
I think
I
that's
think
it,
I
yeah.
think Kermit as Vin Diesel would be.
Oh, yeah. I live my life a quarter mile at a time, and
So-
so into that, and, what is your for my final question, what is your go-to movie, snack, and drink? At home, in the theater, what do you gotta have?
So at home, I'm a big fan of a bottle like IBC cream soda, like a with a like
Mm.
not just like a bottle of it, and then like hot and spicy Cheez-Its. That's like
Oh
so.
god,
If I
yeah.
I think I actually that was exactly what I ate when I watched that thing you do last night. And that's like
Nice.
it's like it started when I was younger, and or so most so in college when I was
Mhm.
watching new episodes of Smallville. That was always
Mm,
like we would have enough of those in the dorm for everyone because I would have
yeah.
Smallville watch parties, and we would do, and that was my favorite snack: Cheez-Its and cream sodas. And then when I go to the movies, and it just comes from it's what I always got even as a kid. I'll get a large popcorn. The butter is incredibly important. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's extra jewels in heavens for the movie theater attendants that like put a little bit of popcorn and then butter and then a little bit more and then like
The way
the ones who just
yeah.
put it over the top. I hate them and I don't even know them and I get so judgy when they do that in the movie. Like they're practically ruining my movie experience. But I don't let it completely ruin it. But it's a tough start. So I like a very buttery popcorn, and then like a Mr. Pibb. And it has to be Mr.
Oh,
Pibb. I'm
nice.
normally a Dr. Pepper guy, but when
Yeah.
you're watching, God designed Mr. Pibb to go with popcorn when you're watching movies. I think that's in the Bible somewhere.
I think so too, like AMC 315 or something like that,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think so. That's exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah, Regal first Regal 2025, you know, like, that's, like, yeah, those are that's it's in there.
2025, which is how much they charge for popcorn now. So
Yeah, honestly. It's in the, what is it, The Message? Is that, like, the one where it's kind of the cool I had one of those Bibles growing up. I was like, "Oh, it's kinda paraphrased from, like, the Bible," and
yeah,
I was like, "This means I'm kind of a cool kid," you know? So it must be in The Message, I'm sure.
yeah. I hate
Um,
that my Bible college knowledge lets me know that that's technically a transliteration and not a translation. And I hate that I know that those are words that
oh.
exist.
No, no, I
So
mean,
there we go. There.
I was very over carrying around my Precious Moments King James Bible with a little lamb on the front that I was like, "I need something cool," and that's what
The
I
Bible
needed to
made
be cool for
cool.
me. Yeah, I needed to
I
be
love it.
cool. So that was yeah, so The Message, NIV, you know, too basic for me, so I had to had to go. Anyway, we should do a Patreon of just like, what type of Bible do you like to
There we
carry
go.
around?
Tell me the
You
kind of
know,
Bible you use, and I'll tell you everything else about you.
that's like the very Christian version of like astrology.
Right? Like so, yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
god, Drew, you could
you're such
that
a
would
new
be
living translation. That's a bit. That's a
that's a
bit.
bit Drew.
I would try that out.
Yeah, I think that's for you. I think that's something you gotta work on.
That is
You
what
could do
I
like
will work on that, and I'll let you know how it goes. Because I
yeah.
really think the starting line of the bit is like Christians aren't into astrology, but we will have opinions about what kind of Bibles you use.
Yes, and it's like if someone has like a new Gideon Bible from the hotel, you know that they're poor. Like
Yep.
basically, like they stole it from a Motel 6. Like they don't like
Yeah.
they didn't go to Lifeway Christian bookstores and get themselves a nice Bible with like a parody T-shirt, you know. And yeah, I think there's something there for. See, this is like
Look
why
at that.
you're. This is why this is good, and
This is
why
great.
we.
Yeah.
But Drew, before I let you go, can you tell the people where they can find you and what you got going on?
Absolutely. And also, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. This has been
Yeah,
a blast. So much fun. Great excuse to
same.
rewatch two of my favorite movies. And
Yeah.
so, Appreciate being on here. So everyone listening, you can find me on any kind of social media, on YouTube. My favorites are Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I guess I'm on TikTok as well, at Drew Davis Comedy. That'll connect you to all my other stuff, my sites. I do a lot of other things. I run a group called the Clean Comedy Collective that produces clean comedy shows in Middle Tennessee and all across the nation, actually. And then I have a podcast that is completed now. It's a Quarter Mile podcast. But if you're like, wow, what are more thoughts about Furious 7 coming from Drew Davis? That's an episode we have in season 1. And Cortney has been on 3 of our episodes. She reviewed The Italian Job with us with Charlize Theron, and she also reviewed Twister and Twisters. That we vaguely mentioned David Cornsweet, and he was in Twisters. And so
we do.
And so there's some episodes there you might want to check out. If you're in the Nashville area, I produce a monthly show every last Thursday of the month in Sweetwater's Coffee and Tea in Lenox Village in South Nashville, which is the forgotten part of Nashville. But we're there and we do comedy. And it's right next to a Blue Coast Burrito, and you also get deals if you go to the show. You can get deals at Blue Coast Burrito afterwards. So, but yeah, that's kind of vaguely what I have going on. Just doing some local stuff right now, trying to figure out how to balance stand-up comedy and a full-time job. You know that struggle well, Cortney, but we're making it work.
Yeah, we're making it work. We're living life a quarter mile at a time.
Yes, we are.
Truly inching our way towards 2026. That is the truth. Well, Drew, thanks again for doing the show. And audience, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week. This has been Core Memory, a podcast about movies. And I'm your host, Cortney Warner. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Please feel free to like and subscribe on anywhere that you get your podcasts. Would absolutely love the support on there. If you enjoyed today's episode and any of our other episodes, also we are on Instagram at Core Memory Pod. Please feel free to give us a follow on there as well if you want any behind the scenes tidbits or any kind of fun visuals on there. And again, thank you for listening, and we hope that you'll listen again soon.